very high words to say about you.
Thank you so much.
Very high.
Sonia's husband is a
I
doctor.
hope I live up to that expectation.
Sir, you all live.
Husband, and he
So,
had very
Dr. Saab, a very warm, now we are starting live, Dr. Saab, we are a very warm welcome to you from the Supreme Court Bar Association. It's indeed our honor and pleasure to have you with us at a very difficult time of our lives, of the entire country. And we, in the members of the Supreme Court Bar Association, unfortunately, have been very, very badly affected by this pandemic. We have lost a very large number of our lives in the recent second wave, so to say, or whatever it is that, of course, you will clarify. And one thing which has really troubled us this time is that a lot of people who have lost their lives were not having any comorbidities. So that was something very, very disturbing, and that has really shaken all of us. I mean, the bar will not be the same. A lot of our friends, with whom we used to stand in the corridor and chat and etc., they have died. Now, my questions to you are that firstly, is this the second wave, third wave, or the fourth wave? Because some papers say this is the fourth wave in Delhi, as far as Delhi is concerned. So is it the fourth wave or the second wave or the third wave? And if there is, whatever wave it is there another wave coming which is likely to affect the children more seriously? And the other question that I wanted to ask you was from our side, of course, and then we'll have more questions coming in at the end of the show when our members who will be on YouTube will be SMSing to us and we'll be putting those questions to you. The other question that comes to our mind is that what is this black fungus which has suddenly come as a very, very disturbing thing in this pandemic? So please enlighten us on that as well. And of course, lastly, that what all, apart from vaccination, of course, we are trying to vaccinate our members as fast as we can. But apart from vaccination, what other steps we need to take? Because very soon, hopefully, if the positivity rate in Delhi comes down, we may have open court by end of June or early July, and where we will have to go inside court. So hopefully 80% of us should be vaccinated by then. But all 100% may not be. So what are the challenges if we open court, and what precautions should we take? I want that as a just abundant caution that if we are opening soon, please enlighten us on that as well. So over to you, Dr. Please.
Can you enable the screen sharing?
Yes, sir. Just a minute, sir.
Minesh is our tech person. So he's not a technical guy, but we are using him as our tech person. So
I think it is a part and parcel of your profession. Everybody has to learn. You cannot shy away from it.
Yes. I've also learned a lot in this pandemic. And try and keep, Dr. Firstly, if it is possible, do it English. So it's a Hindi-English kind of a thing. And secondly, as less technical as possible, because we are basically all laymen. So lawyers would like to know in very common language what exactly. It should not go something above our head.
Sir, now
and one more request, Dr. Saab, that we want that at least members should be positive, because there are so many rumors and people feel that there is something which is not actually going to adversely affect each and everyone. So we want something that which should be spread in a positive manner.
Okay.
Yes, I think yes. Pradeep has put it very rightly, because this negativity is actually killing more people than.
Yeah. Are my slides visible?
Yes.
Okay. At the outset, I'm extremely thankful to Mr. Vivek Singh and his elite team of Executive Council of Supreme Court Bar Association for having given me this, Mr. Vikas Singh, for having given me this opportunity of interacting with. I will differ with Mr. Vikas that you are a layman. I think you are the most educated lot. Once you go and argue for us, you have to know the details of both sides of the party. So how can you claim to be a layman? I respect you and treat you all as very intelligent men who can see both sides of the coin judiciously. So with that in mind, let me try to come to the topic allotted to me by Mr. Vikas and his team. Third wave of COVID-19, how to save our country. Are my slides visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is a wave? You see, if you see today only, you have a cyclone which is hitting the western part of the India called Taute. So these are the waves which keep originating in the sea in the form of cyclones or tsunamis. But that will affect only the coastal areas. Here we are dealing with a wave which is airborne, which is affecting not only India, not only Indian and the Asian subcontinent, but whole of the world. Since Mr. Vikas has told me to talk of the basic ways to prevent ourselves from the third wave, having presumed that we have been already through the first and second wave, which may not be true, let me give you the figures of what first and second wave mean. In March 2020, we had the first case of COVID-19 in India, which started settling by December 2020. But unfortunately, when we tried to lower our guard, then we had a resurgence of the second wave, and that is still going at the peak, but only for the last few days. In the middle of the May, we are trying to see the flattening of the curve. So what are the current COVID issues? As of now, today we have about 2.4 crores people in India who've been affected. There have been 2.6 lakh deaths in India. Hospital facilities are overwhelmed. Health workers are exhausted and they are becoming infected, as are your community getting infected because of the exposure to the day-to-day public. Social media is full of desperate people seeking medical oxygen, hospital beds and others, leading to the so-called negativity. And look at the pictures in the foreign media which are shown of India. We do not have a wood to burn our peers. We do not have the burial ground, and we do not have shamsans to take care of the bodies. If this is the ghastly picture portrayed in the world media, you can imagine our own plight in India. What are the causes of second and possibly the third wave? So virus has to live so as to propagate itself and have more and more progeny. So it makes all efforts to mutate from a type A to type 2 to type C. The more the virus multiplies, the more it is likely to mutate. We in India somehow have a bad habit of sticking into the rules stipulated with the government. Human behavior has not been a good issue with us ever since independence. In fact, if you look at the Eastern countries, the countries which are neighboring China, like Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, they have been very well able to control the pandemic simply by sticking to the common WMD rules. That means you wash your hands, wear the mask, and maintain the social distance. And look at these crowds, which possibly either we are not educated, we are not used to comply with the common ground realities and try to follow the rules. And this is what is leading us to the second and third wave. The causes for the second wave are possibly the government also liberalized the policy of relaxing the lockdowns. We had a slow vaccination drive. We had a protection from the first infection, which was not lasting long after the first vaccination. And then we had both the Health Minister of India as well as the Prime Minister of India proclaiming that we have achieved the end game in India. And even Harshvardhan went on to say that we had vaccine guru in Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I'm not saying he was wrong, but this was the perception at that time. So is the third wave inevitable? Look at the data given by the principal scientific advisor to Prime Minister of India and Government of India, Dr. Vijay Raghavan. He thinks it is going to land up with bang. We do not know at what time exactly. If we look at the history of pandemics in the world, we should know from the last pandemic, which happened in 1918 and lasted for almost 3 years, there are 3 waves the pandemic will settle down. You will have repeated peaks, you'll have a big peak, and you will have a smoldering infection, and you will have a one peak and then smoldering infection. This is the classical example of the first COVID infection. Now we have COVID-2 infection. The SARS-CoV-1 infection occurred in 2000, that is gone, but the MERS coronavirus second episode is still smoldering on. Are we flattening the curve? If you look at the different countries, be it Russia, Peru, Brazil, Colombia, most of them are still having increasing number of the patient are possibly trying to flatten out, except in countries like US and Russia, where a significant chunk of the population has been vaccinated. Look at the countries like ours, middle income and lower income groups. We are still at the peak of our problem. So why the third wave? The third wave is, it is a generalist approach of the virus. Virus will affect anyone and everyone till everyone is safe. And third wave, level of calculating virus with high number of the people are infected, but then still we will have large number of the patients who are not infected, large number of the individual. If you look at the enormity of the Indian population, which is to the tune of about 1.37 billion by now, and the total number of the cases which have been reported is only 2 crore. So if you go by just theoretical figure, 90% of the population is still vulnerable to infection. So let's go by this adage: no one is safe unless everyone is safe. So unless everybody has been vaccinated or had a mild infection, you cannot all be safe in one go. So when will the third wave come? Possibly by the October end or November. Nobody knows. This is a gentleman who's very well read. He has a mathematical model of calculating. He predicted in mid-May the maximum number of the cases will come up. I think he's proving to be right. But I think before harping on to understanding the first, second, and third wave, it is important, Mr. Vikas and your team, please understand that unless you know about the virus, there is no point of discussing the ways of curtailing the virus and trying to understand its pathogenesis. There was a gentleman, an ophthalmologist in China called Dr. Lapping. He observed an unusual case of pneumonia and reported to the communist Chinese dictatorial authorities that he is finding a new virus. The guy was put behind the bar and his claims were rubbished. Till in the first week of December, the other physicians in China started realizing that they are coming up with a new type of pneumonia, which was atypical pneumonia, which was not conforming to the conventional type of pneumonia they were used to seeing in December in China. On 10th January, they found out a new virus, which they named as novel coronavirus. On 30th January, there were about 6,000 cases all over the world. At that time, WHO said that this is an emergency of international concern. Then China was smart enough to have hoodwinked WHO and try to rename this Wuhan China virus as SARS-CoV-2 infection, which was named as by International Committee on Taxonomy of the Viruses. And it was very late. People now criticize WHO that it was only on 11th March that WHO declared this as a pandemic. And people think that we had lost 2 crucial months. What is this coronavirus? There are 5,000 species of coronaviruses which are present in the animals, primarily in the bats. Over the last 2 decades, that means last 20 years, something has happened these viruses have developed a particular liking or propensity to come to the human beings. So this is the third epidemic of coronavirus getting transmitted to the human beings. Otherwise, they are known to be in the bats for donkey years. First pandemic related to coronavirus was in 2002. This was called SARS-1. Only 8,000 cases were reported, and then this epidemic ended. Second was called Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, in which 2,500 cases were reported with substantial deaths. This is still going on and smoldering. What is the difference between the first and the second wave of the coronavirus infection? If you look at the total number of the cases in the first and the second coronavirus infection, they were minuscule. But look at what is happening in the third wave. We already, by the time I'm presenting my data, we have crossed 16 crore cases all over the world, with 33 documented deaths because of 33 lakhs documented deaths in the world because of the coronavirus infection. Even though it is more infective as compared to other viruses, but it is less fatal. But look at the mortality in second COVID infection in 2012, 33%. That means every third patient suffering from coronavirus died. So it is a deadly infection if it turns out to be in its own form. The basic difference between the first and the second coronavirus infection was that there were no asymptomatic patients who were transmitting the virus in the COVID-1 epidemic. And hence, anybody who was sick, you just isolated him, and then most of the countries were able to control it. There was a known carrier of the virus, that is civet cat. So in developed countries, all civet cats were culled, they were butchered, and hence the infection got controlled. Unfortunately, in COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2, we do not know what is the reservoir of the animals. And then there are a lot of asymptomatic cases, like, your clientele coming to discuss with you, our own patient who come and see us in our clinics telling us that they have abdominal pain. You send them for admission in Gangaram, and then on testing, they are found to be COVID positive. So they are totally asymptomatic. So that is the biggest curse for us as human beings, that we are dealing with this coronavirus infection, which may be asymptomatic. So this is how a virus looks like. It has multiple spikes on its surface, and hence it is called coronavirus infection, because it looks like a crown. So these are the spikes which help the virus enter into the human body. So this is what happens. You have a human cell. This is the virus. Virus enters the surface of the cell and gets inside the cell. This is called endocytosis. And once the virus gets into the cell, it is broken down into the various components. It's like a complete ball which is disassembled. And then the virus uses all the intracellular machinery, produce millions of virions. So one virus enters the cell, you have a ready-made machinery in the human body which makes millions of the virions within one cell. So once the virus has gone, in a normal individual, in the defenses of the body tend to neutralize the virus within the cell, and hence the virus does not spread. Look at this COVID-19. It is a very smart virus. Once it gets into the cell, it hides into this shell called double membrane vehicle. That means you have a thief in your house which is hiding when you're working, and when you go away, it keeps stealing the things from your home. This is a peculiar tendency of the COVID-19 infection. In addition, the intracellular defenses which are ready in a normal individual like you and me to neutralize the viruses are inhibited. That means all your internal cameras, CCTVs in your individual rooms, in your corridors, in your verandas are totally deactivated and made defunct by this COVID-19 infection. So what happens is you have initial defense, which is CCTV is shut off in your room, the virus enters in your house, and then it makes merry by utilizing your own system. That means it enters your kitchen, uses your eggs, your bread, your butter, your vegetables, and starts cooking for itself and keeps on making merry. So three things can happen. You can have an early interferon response, in which that means you have initial defenses strong like in children, and then you have a no disease. Suppose there is no initial defense of the response, the virus makes merry, multiplies, and you have a serious disease. This is the second problem which typically tends to occur in adulthood and old age. So if the virus enters into the cell, typically in 80% of the patient, body's defenses neutralize it and the host survives. But in 20% of the time, the virus response is so rapid in terms of inflammation and hyperimmune response that it tends to kill the area where it enters. That area where it enters is the alveoli of the lung or the breathing apparatus of the lung, and hence most of the people will die of lung-related injury. If you look at the mortality which occurs in COVID-19, is directly related to the age. The higher the age, the more the mortality. Hardly any pediatric age group people will die. Majority of those with 80 plus population will have substantial mortality. Aging leads to reduction in your immune response, as happens with aging. You may say children also do not have an immune response. Why do they survive? I think there is an excellent explanation for that. That if you are an old man, then possibly in the past you would have had some exposure to corona-like virus, not the COVID-19 virus. Since there is a mimicry of the memory cells which will identify this incoming virus as something which they have been exposed to, and hence they tend to generate a hyperimmune response, and this hyperimmune response in the lung leads to the lung injury and fatality. Moreover, if you tend to be obese and have excessive fat in the body, you have a poor T cell response, and then again you are more likely to die of the infections. So in the initial first wave of the illness, virus is multiplying, and then if your body defenses are able to take control of it, then you recover completely. But in the second phase of the illness, if your body responds very vehemently, in a dysregulated manner, in a totally vitriolic manner, then you have a large immune response, hyperinflammatory response, then you tend to come down with all complications which lead to mortality and fatality related to this. So you die of host immunity, and now you do not die of the virus directly affecting the human body. So what is your outcome if you get infected with virus? It will depend upon the viral factors, your host immune response, as well as the drugs which you have taken to treat it. You could be asymptomatic, you may have a mild disease or you have a severe disease. And hence this basic knowledge of the virus is extremely important, not only to understand the vaccines, how the virus enters into the cell, which drugs to use, how will the vaccine be useful, and how do you get rid of it. Let me give you some practical aspects of management. We have 3 vaccines which are available in India. This is the Covishield. It is a vaccine which was developed by University of Oxford, in addition to this pharmaceutical giants called AstraZeneca, produced by Serum Institute of India. It was tested in India and it has a 77% efficacy. You have second vaccine which is available to us. This is our own indigenous vaccine. This is made from a inactivated virus. This is called from the Bharat Biotech vaccine. It is an extremely good efficacy of about 81%. Then the third vaccine, which we at the moment have imported from Russia, this is called Sputnik vaccine. It has a 92% efficacy in giving you neutralizing antibody. This is the summary. I think it is important. One slide gives you all information. We have different types of vaccines, and these are the ages at which these can be given. If you look at these vaccines like Pfizer, Moderna, Sputnik, Janssen, Covaxin, and Covishield, only Pfizer is allowed in the pediatric age group. Traditionally, they are given in intramuscular region in a dose of about 0.5%, 5 ml. Their cost varies depending on which area of the world you are living in or which state of India you're living in. The efficacy varies anywhere from 80% to 95%. Covishield has, in fact, of all the things, only 77% efficacy. We need 2 doses for every vaccination, except Janssen and Janssen, which is no more used now. Now, if you give the first vaccine, you have an immune response in the form of antibodies, which will come up and then gradually settle down. It will not last long enough. If you give a second dose at an interval, which is debatable, we can come to that point in the discussion, then you will have virus, you will have second dose, which will boost up your immune response to almost 3 times the level of the first response. And then the viral antibody titers do not decline as much as they would do in the primary immune response. Hence, by default, most of the vaccines, you need to take a second dose also. Who should be given a vaccine? All patients all individuals above the age of 18 years, even if you have inflammatory bowel disease, liver disease, immunocompromised state, organ transplantation, those on anticoagulants or those on immunosuppression should all be given. Who should not be given vaccine? See, I get at least 100 calls daily. Should I take a vaccine or not? The answer is very clear. As of now, only if you have allergy to the previous vaccination, that is the only contraindication. Short of that, anybody can take vaccine. If you're running fever, please do not take a vaccine at that time. There is a controversy regarding the pregnancy. As of now, even in US, Association of Gynecology and Obstetricians of America have already sanctioned the emergency use of Pfizer vaccine in pregnant women in US. Possibly we're going to do the same thing in India also. When do we defer the vaccination and when we should not take it immediately? The answer is clear. If you have recovered from COVID-19 infection and you have donated plasma as a convalescent plasma, that means after recovery as a charitable purpose, then you don't need to vaccinate yourself again up till 3 months. If you have been treated with monoclonal antibodies, this is a new upcoming treatment for coronavirus infection, you don't need to get vaccinated for another 10 days. And if you have had COVID-19 infection symptomatic, then you can delay your vaccination for some time. Do they have any side effects? The answer is the side effects are minimal. I'll come to that. There are some cautions you have to remember. If you have a clotting factor deficiency, like if you have hemophilia, or if you have a bleeding tendency or low platelet, you have to be really careful in getting a vaccine. Pregnancy, I've already mentioned. Indian FOGSI, which is the Federation of Obs and Gynecologists Society of India, is possibly going to recommend the use of safe vaccine like Pfizer and Moderna in pregnant women in India. Children, up as I have given you already in my previous slide, Pfizer has allowed the utility of this vaccine in patients below the age of 18 years up to 12 years. Now in Canada, the trials are going on to vaccinate the children between the age of 3 and 12 years. What do you do when you travel? And are there any recommendation for travel? I think there is a government of India notification recently that anybody who's traveling outside India you need to have not only a vaccination certificate, but also the QR code just to verify the authenticity of your claim that you have been vaccinated. Are there any side effects? Most of the side effects are related to local problems like simple tenderness, warmth, swelling, a bit of fever, which are transient or easily passable. Systemic side effects are uncommon and rare and far and few. But problem is, if you continue to have symptoms 3 days after vaccination, it is possible that you had been harboring a COVID-19 infection before you got vaccinated. And hence, it is required that you please get yourself checked up for COVID-19 infection as an underlying problem. So where are we in India? We have these vaccines which are available now. We have Covishield from Serum Institute of India. We have Covaxin from the Bharat Biotech. We have Sputnik vaccine, which is being manufactured in India by the Russian authorities with the help of Dr. Reddy's lab. And these are the other vaccines which are likely to come. We have Zydus is coming up with a DNA vaccine. We have a protein subunit vaccine from Novavax. We have a recombinant vaccine developed by Biological E. We have an mRNA vaccine from Genova company. We have Bharat Biotech vaccine, which is developing an inactivated rabies vector platform vaccine. And then we have a Aurobindo Pharma from Hyderabad, which is coming out with a new platform for development of the vaccines. Do we switch from one to another? Like if now, only today in the morning, if you see hundreds of the people who were supposed to be given the second dose of the Covishield, when they reported to the vaccination center, they were told that there is a sudden change in the government policy. Your second dose is deferred to 12 weeks now. There was no message given to them, and there was a big chaos. In India, we still do not recommend that you should switch over from Covaxin and Covishield and vice versa. There are some scientific logistics of shifting over, but as of now, if you have to take one carry-over message, please do not switch over between the various platforms of the vaccine. Are they effective against mutants? As of now, we know that mRNA vaccine, which is the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, have shown to be effective, at least in UK strain and South African and Brazilian strain. We do not have much data on our triple mutant strain. So this is the current status of vaccination in India. In fact, if you look at the people who have been vaccinated, in India, 18 crore people have been vaccinated. And for a change, it is good to realize, and one has to be really happy and cheerful about it, that males and females have been looked into without any gender bias. 80% of our vaccine, 80 to 90% of our vaccine is Covishield, only 10% is Covaxin. And majority of our patients who have been vaccinated are either those who are above 60 or above 45 with comorbidities. Most of our young children and most of the people less than 45 years of age are still vulnerable and have not been affected. So that much about the knowledge and the vaccination status. Now coming back again to the question raised by Mr. Vikas and his team, what do we do to prevent the third wave? Why do we get the third wave? First wave is a generalized approach of the virus. In second wave, you have a filtered virus which arises out of the increasing pool of the past infection. Virus has a tendency to grow. You as a human being tendency has to kill it. So there is a fight between the virus and the human resources. So in these conditions, virus tends to mutate so that it has to survive. It is a question of survival of the fittest for the virus. So high level of circulating virus, the more uninfected pool of the patients you have, more will be the stress on the virus to go and infect the uninfected people. The more it multiplies, the more it is likely to mutate. So the lesson is no one is safe unless everyone is safe. So if you want to prevent the pandemic in the world, everybody on the planet has to be protected. Otherwise, virus is going to have the upper hand. When is the third wave likely to come? As I mentioned, excellent model given by this gentleman from Mr. Mahendra Agarwal, who's a technocrat, is IIT graduate from Kanpur, who has given a mathematical model. Possibly in October, we are going to land up with the third wave. How to defend the third wave? So there are three ways you can look at it. You can have a vaccination. I've given you enough of literature and the efficacy and the limitations of the vaccine. You can go in for lockdown, and then you can follow the typical WMD. WMD does not stand what Saddam Hussein said as weapons of mass destruction, but it stands for washing your hands, masking, and social distancing. So appropriate COVID behavior is the order of the day. Vaccine is still the best option. We need rapid vaccination drive. In fact, if you look at the vaccination which we are doing at the current pace of 15 lakhs vaccination per day, we are not going to vaccinate the whole Indian population. That is 80% of the population which needs to be vaccinated to have a herd immunity for next 5 years. So where is the problem? Even though we have a world record of once doing 46 lakhs jabs per day, but that is not enough. If we have to vaccinate all our population by the end of December, as claimed by our Honorable Prime Minister, we need to be vaccinating 90 lakhs to 1 crore of the people almost daily. So this is what is needed. But that is only on theoretical concept that you have to give the vaccination. Let me give you an example from what had happened in the past. We similarly initiated a small pox vaccination drive in 1962, and our leaders proclaimed that we'll be able to finish the drive in 3 years. And mind you, it took us 15 years to eradicate the smallpox once the drive was started. Secondly, we started the drive of polio eradication. Most of you, as very well read, educated, and elite people, will know that polio drive was started in 1993. Everybody believed that we'll finish it off, the polio, within the next 3 to 5 years. But what happened? We took another 18 years. And by 2011, we were able to eradicate polio. And even today, we have sporadic cases which are present in India. What is the biggest hurdle in vaccination drive? You go to any center and this is what you find. Covaxin is out of stock. Covishield is out of stock. Where do we get the vaccination from? I am saying we have to vaccinate 1 crore per day. But then if you look at the manufacturing capacity of our manufacturing hub, which we claim to be the best in the world, what do we have? We have, at the most, if we are stretched to the limit, we'll be able to produce only 8 crore of the vaccine per month. We need about, say, 30 crore per month. Where do we get it from? The only option is go to the international market, look at the vaccines like Pfizer and from China. These people have almost 7 billion vaccines. Why can't the government go and find out and purchase it from them, and even if it at the higher cost? Because unless we get the vaccine onto the ground, how are we going to vaccinate our population? So Pfizer has large number of the vaccine which is available. Look at the countries like UK. Not only after vaccinating their entire population, they have also booked up their doses of the Pfizer vaccine from the US manufacturers for booster dose, which may be needed in December, because some of our Indian variants are peeping into the UK territories and they are likely to affect the UK population, and hence they need a better vaccination strategy. Till then, what do? We continue to have social distancing. We should understand that earlier it was believed that this is a droplet infection, and hence you need to maintain a distance of 2 meters, which is equivalent to around 6 feet. But nowadays we are realizing that this is an airborne infection. So unless it is imperative on your part to go out, have parties, have discussion, you please do not move out. The only way to protect yourself is stay at home, stay at home, and stay at home. How do we ensure the discipline? This is what we do in India. This is one way of ensuring discipline, and this is another way of ensuring discipline with love and with compassion. But I think we do not understand this love and compassion. So time has come that if you have to enforce, please enforce it this way. This is the only way to get rid of it. What is the ground reality in Delhi? If you look at the statement given by our health minister in Delhi, no vaccines in Delhi. So they have stopped vaccination for people in the 18 to 45 group. This is the group which is most likely to be affected by the third wave. We cannot vaccinate everyone before the end of the year because there are no vaccine available. So what next? So next is that we have to have innovative solution. So what till the time we have vaccination which is available, either we have to beg, borrow, or steal, or we have to procure it from the nations which have excessive vaccination available with them. We need to meanwhile build up our critical healthcare system. These are the innovative solutions. You have to make technology which is available to you. All railway station platforms which have areas which are confined for the storage can be converted into the medical facility with the availability of the ventilators. You can use armies and armies defense mechanism and the ability to have sanctioning authorities which can put up the medical center at the shortest notice so that we do not have mortalities lack of infrastructure, lack of oxygenation, lack of doctors, and lack of medical equipment because of the poor preparedness. Why is India facing such a severe shortage of nurses? Is because we have been conducting exam, we have been delaying exam, and our major chunk of the medical and non-medical professions are going abroad. If the government can change the policy of seeing that the medicos and the paramedical staff are paid well, they are looked after well, their needs are catered to, certainly majority will stay back. And even for the oxygen, see, it's your own courts which have to give orders to the state and the center to stop the fight between them and ensure oxygen. This is something which should not come to the level of the doctor to keep fetching for the oxygen. Look at the daily news of almost 10 deaths which are occurring on daily basis in Goa Medical College because there is no oxygen between 1 and 10 a.m. What more shameful thing can happen in India? Daily there are 10 deaths at the stipulated time in Goa Medical College. This is something which one should be ashamed of in a country like ours. What is the likely impact of the third wave? You have severe economic injuries. You have complex impact on health infrastructure. Young are going to be affected more. Children will suffer because they'll be staying at home for more than a year if we go on in lockdown. In addition, there will be a substantial education loss. To summarize, ladies and gentlemen, second wave is declining. Third wave can be prevented. You need to strengthen your healthcare system. We need to boost up our vaccination drive. We should prevent the person-to-person infection with early detection following strict COVID norms. We should have a strict lockdown, not the type of lockdown which is available now. And finally, Mr. Vikas requested, what is this black fungus or mucormycosis? Mind you, this is a fungus which is called black fungus because if you see under the microscope, it can look like a black substance. It is a mucormycosis, which is commonly called the molds. You can inhale it when you come in contact with a person who is infected. It can be transmitted by the tubing of the oxygenation pipes. It can be transmitted by the water, which is used as a humidifier in inhalers in the oxygen supply plants and in patients who are vulnerable because of the poor immune system. Current literature suggests that if anybody has swelling in the eyes or the nose or blackening of the tongue, this is a dangerous infection to have. People who are diabetic, people who are immunocompromised, people who use excessive dosage of steroid for a long period of time are likely to come back with this. And even today's newspaper, if you see AIIMS chief Dr. Randeep Guleria saying that already 30 cases of mucormycosis are admitted in AIIMS because of the injudicious use of steroids. And then there is a advisory board of COVID-19 which tells you that steroids should be given only if the patient needs oxygen and requires hospitalization. If you are at home, you do not even require oxygenation, there is no need of giving steroids. That is something which is extremely important for us to understand. Now, to sum up, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 infection can be totally asymptomatic, but then we know it leads to high infectivity. And because there is a lack of initial response of the immune system to contain the virus, because it switches off your CCT camera in the body, it leads to extensive viral replication. Now, if this extensive viral replication elicits a hyperimmune response, so that is the very basis of fatality and the mortality primarily related to the lung and its complication of hypoxia. So with that, I end up my talk with the acknowledgement of contribution of my registrar, Dr. Jatin Agarwal, who had helped me in preparing this slide. I'll stop sharing the slide and hand over the dais back to the moderators, Mr. Vikas and his team.
So, Dr. Saab, as far as you are concerned, the third wave will have to be fought mainly by vaccination, as
vaccination and lockdown. You see, unless I have a very strong view about it. Why do we need to move out? For two reasons. One is that nobody is interested in just roaming around to hill station. One is that we have to earn our livelihood. That is where I want the government to step in. Anybody who will die without earning, government should give a fiscal stimuli. Most of us at our level will not require any support. If we are able, if anybody who has to move out, be it a advocate or a doctor or a paramedical work, you have to see anybody who's moving about has to be vaccinated. Anybody who's not vaccinated, government should help him confine at home. A combination of the lockdown and vaccination certainly can prevent the third wave.
So that means as far as our courts are concerned, we should continue in the virtual mode for a longer period
Absolutely,
of time.
absolutely,
We
yes.
can't have physical hearing.
Yes, unless you had a vaccination, double vaccination, please do not have a physical meeting because you do
So
not know
if we are able to vaccinate 80% of our lawyers, then probably we can do for physical hearing.
But then you must understand it's not lawyers alone in the court. You will have,
No, I mean
people who will be coming.
the entire staff.
Yes.
When I mean lawyers, I mean people coming to the court. If they are
But how will you ensure?
vaccinated,
Yes,
if they are
absolutely.
80% vaccinated, then so the real challenge is to vaccinate maximum numbers and
That's
then
right.
think of open hearing. That I think should be our priority.
Unless
as far
it is
as-
mandatory to move out, anybody should be allowed only if you are vaccinated. Other than that, the government should support. Government can buy, it can take loan and then anybody can repay later, but you have to save lives, which is not possible with the fragile, incomplete, inadequate infrastructure. Come what may. Look at the pathetic government hospitals, what happens. How many politicians get admitted in the government hospital? Ultimately, they have to come to the private hospital. This is the time we should strengthen our government sector, hospital. We should strengthen our primary health centers so that there is not excessive weightage and the load on the private sector.
As far as the government policy is concerned, actually, there is a lot to be said. With, of course, unfortunately, the judge who was handling this policy issue, he has in fact been infected with COVID, and that hearing has been postponed. So let us see. But I'll put it to the others now. Anybody who has, because they would be having questions from outside, so they'll be able to ask.
Questions.
Nina
If I
Gupta
am
wants to.
permitted. Yes, I have
Yes,
a
of
few
course,
questions,
please.
Doc. My first question is that I've been reading in the news that a lot of bodies now are not being cremated. They are being just thrown in the river. So the water which we are drinking from the source we don't know, all over the country, it can really spread through the water. We do not know what kind of purification is taking place. And even if we do an RO, we have an RO in our house. Are we supposed to boil the water if we have a reverse osmosis plant in our house? What is the strength of that water in the sense that how much it can infect us?
Yeah, you see, this is a relevant question. First of all, I think this is criminal. You people at your status should take it up very ferociously. Is it not criminal? A person who has died, you dump the body. Somebody would have done it. Why not make them accountable? And if you, not you, who will make them accountable? So that is my earnest request. Let's not take it lightly. If we are denouncing our dead bodies, we do not respect our human being. If we denounce our dead bodies, I think that is pretty and utterly shameful. So you people take that as a cause. Coming to the scientific answer to your question, virus has a peculiar tendency of living only inside the body. Outside the body does not survive long enough. So even if there is a dead body which is contaminated with the virus, after 6 to 8 hours, the body's virus will be dead. That is the reason it always is looking for an uninfected, vulnerable virgin host to infect. So it will only go from one person to another. It will not come down from water, never.
Yes. Doc, thank you very much. I have another two more questions. My second question is that you were talking about contraindications. And you talked about people who have a tendency of having high clotting level. They should think twice before they go for vaccination. Now, there are people who have a standard ESR or HSCRP and ACE, which is always higher than the normal. Now, are they supposed to consult or do some investigations before they really go for vaccination, or they can straight away go for vaccination?
Yeah, you see, as of now, there have been only very limited cases of the thrombocytopenia and thrombosis associated with vaccination. Currently, there is no recommendation that patients undergoing vaccination should have either a CRP or HSCRP before vaccination. But certainly there should be a note of caution that those who have previous history of thrombocytopenia or thrombosis, they have to be observed longer. In fact, between the Covishield and Covaxin, this is seen more with Covishield than with Covaxin because of the different platforms of the vaccination. It is not a contraindication, but you have to be more cautious and you have to be observed longer than the 30 minutes.
Now, my last question, Doc, is that after the first vaccine or the second vaccine, if you're feeling that you're getting cramps in your body, maybe in legs or part of your body, is it a sign of some kind of clotting in the body, which needs to be looked into, or we have to seriously view this problem, people who get cramps?
Yeah. You see, if you just have body aches, muscle pains, fever, and myalgias, which is transient, lasting for a brief period of time and responds to, say, dolo or any antipyretic drug, then it is not a cause of worry. But if your symptoms are increasing and if they go beyond 3 weeks, then you're worried about the complication. Then better go and see a doctor who will see whether you have an incipient COVID infection, which is becoming more prominent now, is becoming overt, or there is any complication which is developing.
And just last, I just remembered something. You said that it is now in the air and we should stay at home. So are we supposed to keep our windows open, or we have to just keep our windows closed because it is in the air? I mean, like, that's also a fear that we keep ventilated homes.
See, irrespective of what you do, now you imagine, irrespective of what you do, you're likely to have an infection. The only way is have a vaccination. There is nothing else which will prevent you.
No, I think the question,
masking and
Neenaji is, what the question which Neenaji is asking is that when you say in the air, can it come inside your home from the air which you use it for ventilating the home? So you keep windows open. This is one of the recommendations.
Yeah,
so it can't go in the air in that sense. I mean, it will have a distance up to which it can go in the air, and also it can't survive in the air for very long. So I think that
it depends on the answer to that is where are you staying. Yeah, I'll come to that. Suppose you are staying in a condominium in which there is a common lift, common veranda, and common AC.
So common lift is already, we know that. Common lift is, of course, now definitely.
Other than that, if there is nobody in the
windows, from the windows, it can't come from the window.
No, it cannot come from the window because, as you rightly said, it has a limited life of stay in the environment.
So that I thought I must make it clear. I just wanted to introduce Dr. Mahalakshmi Pavni is a senior member. She just recovered from COVID. She's also joined us now. And Ritu Bhardwaj is a joint secretary. She's also joined. Mr. Brijen Chahar is a senior member. He's also just joined. And Arijit Prasad is also joined. I thought I'd introduce them also. So anybody else having a question?
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, doctor. Good morning,
Prashant first. Prashant.
I have a question.
Okay, Mahalakshmi, yes.
Sorry, doctor, I've just recovered from this COVID, doctor. So when should I get I've not been vaccinated so far. So when do you propose that I have my vaccination, the first vaccination, doctor? You said it is 4 to 8 weeks, but in the newspaper, Times of India, I read an article which said 3 months to 6 months.
Yeah.
So what is the correct period, doctor?
Yeah. If you have had infection, which is natural, then you are the person who has the best antibodies developed ever. No vaccination, which is artificially made by the human being, can supplant the antibodies which is being given by the natural infection. You have been protected. But problem with this virus is we are still not sure whether the antibodies which you have developed are good enough to neutralize your incoming new infection or new mutant, or are they long lasting? These are 3 issues. That is the reason you need to have a second vaccination. If you go by the CDC advice, that is Center for Disease Control in US, they say that you do not need a vaccination for another 90 days. But the way India's mutants are coming up, and we have let me assure you that we have a very incomplete and poor knowledge of our own mutants because we do not study enough. So if given the choice, if I was in your shoes, I'll take it after 4 weeks, but up to 9 months, up to 3 months, it's equally safe.
Thank you, doctor.
My question is, what is the gap between the 2 vaccines? Earlier, it was 28 days, then the government turned to 6 to 8 weeks. Now it's 12 or 16 weeks. So between the 2 vaccination, what is the gap that should be there?
You see, ideally, anybody and everybody who has to follow the schedule, you have to strictly go by the manufacturer's advice. You and me cannot decide. If Pfizer or Moderna has conducted a study in the field as per their guidelines of conducting the trial, we have to believe that. Now, the reason for shift over from 4 weeks to 8 weeks, from 8 weeks to 12 weeks, from 12 weeks to 16 weeks is the constraints of the vaccine. It may not be science. In the first study, if you remember, Government of India said the second dose of the COVID shield should be given 4 weeks after the first dose. Whereas in UK, because of the constraints of the vaccine, they had another idea that if you delay the vaccine, you are able to cover a larger population and hence you are able to protect the infection. Based on that, they delayed the second dose. And then there was a study published from UK that if your second dose is delayed by 12 weeks, your efficacy goes to 86% compared to 70% with the first dose. So there is a changing science, changing trend, we have to accept it. So even in the Indian scenario, because there is not enough vaccine, so even if Covishield is delayed by another 12 weeks, there is no harm. But given the choice, if it's available after 4 weeks, you should take it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Doctor, there
Arijit,
is a question it's asked by one of our member, Rohini Bagh. She is asking that whether if somebody is suffering from ciprofloxacin and off-skin allergy, can they take vaccination?
You see, if you look at the level incidence of allergy in general population, large number of the patient will be allergic to ciprofloxacin, metronidazole, sulfa, doxycycline. That is not a contraindication. Unless you have a very severe reaction, say in the form of Stevens-Johnson syndrome, that is a different issue. But the only contraindication is either to the vaccine or the diluents or adjuvants contained in the vaccine. Ciprofloxacin allergy is not a contraindication.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yes, Arijit.
Doctor, I just wanted to know, I mean, I also recovered from a mild COVID attack. So I took my first vaccination on the 3rd of April and I became positive on 19th of April. And I became negative on 29th of April. So I was only home isolation and I was at home. First question is, when do I take my second vaccine? 4 weeks from the date of positive or 4 weeks from the date of being negative?
4 weeks after you had recovered. In fact, as I just mentioned to Mrs. Mahalakshmi, that
Yes.
once you have recovered, CDC says, now you have already got a natural infection, which gives you the most potent, most lasting, most authentic, most definitive immunity. Nothing as compared to the natural infection. You are
Okay.
lucky you have had it and you have come out of it. Is that
Yeah.
right? Now, CDC says that you have to take it 90 days after the recovery from the infection, the day you became negative. You can
Okay.
take up to 90 days. But there are people who have taken it after 4 weeks with good results. You have to just boost up your immunity. That's
So
all.
doctor, what do you suggest? Should we take it 4 weeks?
If you have, it is available, I'll go in for 4 weeks.
Okay.
The problem is constraints of the availability of the vaccine.
Sir,
And
it
if you
is-
look at the social factor, same vaccine may be of more use to somebody who's totally unvaccinated. It's just a social, medico-social reason, not the medical reason alone.
The second question, doctor, is how do
Arijit, your problem will be, I'll answer one thing. Your problem will be that if the government of India has revised the guideline and you have to take it only after 12 weeks, then
Sir,
you
I had taken sir Covaxin, sir. Sir, I took Covaxin. I didn't take Covishield, sir.
So Covaxin, though you can take it. For
So that's the reason I asked.
There's no change.
Covaxin, there is no change.
The second,
two
doctor, I
questions.
wanted to know I mean, we are hearing that a lot of people are having heart problems and cardio problems after recovery. So how do we, what do we do to protect ourselves? Is there any test that we require to do?
In fact, all those patients who have recovered from mild infection are very unlikely to have any major complications subsequently. But people who have recovered from moderate to severe infection, that means those who required oxygenation or hospitalization or ventilatory support, these people are advised as per the Government of India recommendation to be under strict follow-up with their doctors to look at the complication, which can be in the form of either coronary artery disease, thrombosis, or hypertension or diabetes. So be under them. There is no test which will help you, but certainly at the end of the 4 weeks, a combination of the CRP or dimer, depending upon your underlying predisposition to these, suppose you are diabetic, you have dyslipidemia, hypertension, then you are more likely to come down with problems. So follow up with your doctor at least for next 4 weeks.
4 weeks after recovery, one should do
After
these
recovery.
after 4
Yes.
weeks after recovery.
4 recovery weeks. Up to 4 weeks, you have to be on your guard.
Sir, it is said that the third wave is going to hit children. Now, as you said that the vaccination is not available below 12 years, what
Below
precautions
18.
below 12? He
In
said
India,
that
below
it is
18.
not good. In India, below 18. So, what precautions we should take?
In India, it is not available for any age. It's not available below 60. It's not available below 45. There is no vaccine available in India. That is the problem. But if you see the literature, Pfizer has already allowed the utility of this vaccine at all children above the age of 12 years. In Canada, they are already in the phase 3 trial, which will push up the usage of the vaccination from children between 3 and 12 years of age. But that is a phase 3 trial. So soon, I think over the next 6 months, if we have a vaccine, we should be able to vaccinate all children, including those in the range of 12 to 18 years. But problem is, where is the vaccine? These are the children at the moment have the least risk of infection. And at the moment, we need to vaccinate people who are going out to earn their livelihood. People like you, people like us who are facing the public for day-to-day life, they have to be vaccinated before we expose ourselves to the routine day-to-day work.
Dr. Saab, one Amit Sharma, one of our member, he is asking that after taking the vaccinations, both the vaccinations, after how many days their immunity goes down and when they have to take the next course?
You see, after 2 vaccinations, theoretically, you are protected 2 weeks after your last dose. Suppose you have had your last dose on 30th April. By 15th May, you should have enough neutralizing antibodies to make you protect long time. How long? Nobody knows. There is a corollary which you can take from SARS-CoV-1 infection, which started in Hong Kong in 2002. And then subsequently it settled down because most of the patients were symptomatic when they were infecting others, as compared to asymptomatic infection, which is occurring in COVID-19. In that corollary, we know that the antibodies will last only for 2 years. So possibly, like common cold, like influenza, you may require repeated boosters because of the mutations. It's a viral infection. Coronaviruses will never give you a lifelong immunity. Don't be under a wrong impression that after initial 2 doses, you will have a lifelong protection. For the time being, we have a corollary of data from SARS-CoV.
So after the second dose, if I've taken the second dose and if I get the opportunity, say after 6 months or 8 months, what is the ideal time for me to take another different vaccine after the second dose? So 6 months, 8 months or 1 year?
Yeah, this data, sir, is still emerging. At the moment, if you look at, like somebody said in the panel, that they would like to have their antibody tested after 1 month. There are different type of antibodies. We still do not know which is more useful. There are different kits which look at the different aspects of the antibody. One antibody looks at the SARS-CoV spike protein antibody. Another looks at the receptor binding domain. So which one is effective? For how long, we do not know. These answers will come. Maybe 6 months down the lane, these vaccines will have to be altered because you have a mutated virus. You have a triple mutant today, you will have a quadruple, or you have a pentate mutant tomorrow. So this answer will come with passage of time as the science is progressing. We are progressing with science. Science teaches us, we cannot teach science.
Dr. Saab, can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
If you can elaborate about black fungus as far as the patient is concerned. What we are learning nowadays is that black fungus is primarily when you're in the hospital and the oxygen machine is not being properly looked after, or the water which is being used for oxygen is contaminated. What the patient can do to protect himself from black fungus, particularly when it is now so prevalent in these smaller towns. If you go outside Delhi in a nursing home, say in Meerut, Ghaziabad, even in Gurgaon, there are so many cases. So as a patient, what precaution he can take to make sure that nothing like this happens? Or let's not think of COVID as we have been told.
Yeah, I think very relevant question, Vikasji. Most important aspect in any fungal infection, anyway in any part of the body, is related to the immune system and the measures to suppress that immune system. First and foremost is that if you are diabetic, make all efforts to control your diabetes to the best possible control, either by your own conviction or sticking to the food and dietary habits, or being in regular touch with your physicians to control diabetes. Secondly is all drugs which suppress immune system, primarily steroids or dexamethasone, should be taken for a minimum period of time, for a minimum duration, and for the minimum recommended by the physician. Never ever use steroids without consulting a doctor. Nowadays it is a fashion. You have a WhatsApp message, doctors will advise you take Dexona, you forget after 5 days and you continue to take it. Small degree of cough or a bit of fever which may be related to the fatigue, you end up taking steroids. That is something which you can do. And especially if you are at home, You can be more hygienic with your tubing. You can change the tubing. You can change the water of the humidifier. Something, mind you, sir, you who will know better than you as a seasoned person, that in the hospital, it may not be easy for them. It's not one-to-one care as what you can do at home. You can look after your tubing and your humidifier water much better than what a nurse can do who's looking after 15 patients is fatigued at the end of the day. So changeover of the water, minimum use of steroids for minimum duration of the time, excellent control of the diabetes and personal hygiene is what can give you the best protection. Because if you have a disease, it has a bad outcome.
So the second question connected to this is that we have seen so many cases where people have symptoms and they don't have access to the doctor, so they try to contact him on the phone, and there's a video call which happens. And when the patient has the symptom, first thing which the doctors nowadays in Delhi particularly are doing is prescribing the steroids without even waiting for the RT-PCR report. Now, I have seen cases where steroids are prescribed to people, and when they wait for 3 days for RT-PCR report, when the report comes, it's negative. So don't you think the steroids are being prescribed on a drop of a hat, maybe as a precautionary measure? May not be, but maybe because of the panic which is being created that we should not get late in getting the treatment. But the problem is early consumption of steroid at a very, very early. Don't you think that is also causing the immunity level of the patient?
Yeah, if you have, did you attend the initial presentation of my presentation?
Yes.
If you see, as the virus enters into the cell after being endocytized, that means virus is engulfed into the cell and keeps multiplying there. For first 5 days, you do not have much symptoms. And the first symptom when it comes, the virus has come out of the cell. I fully agree with you. This is absolutely atrocious to give steroids in the first 5 days. The reason is, this is the time when the virus is multiplying. So with whatever leftover immune system, if you are going to dampen it with steroid, you are, I think, murdering the patient. No doctor who is reading the literature well will ever give steroids in the first 5 days. Steroid should be given only if your oxygen dips. If you are beyond the first 5 days, I'm extremely happy that you have raised this issue. For the first 5 days, steroids are more detrimental. It is only when the secondary phase of hyperreaction to the huge amount of the virus comes in, when the body responds ferociously, that you need to tame down the ferocious immunological response, you need steroid. That too in a subgroup of the patient who are hospitalized, in which there is a dip in the oxygen to less than 90, or those who require oxygen therapy. Short of that, there is steroids are detrimental. I'm happy you raised this issue.
But can't an advisory with regard to this be issued to all the doctors? Because what
absolutely
we do is that because
in fact, I'll pass on the advisory to you as well. You can show it to anybody. It is available from ICMR, from AIMS, from Ministry of Health. Excellent guidelines.
I just call you back.
Everybody has to follow those. This is, unless if somebody is doing it, then you're simply not following the protocol. There is no point of issuing the guidelines if you don't follow. This is our moral duty, as a physician, as a doctor, to be strictly following science, because we should not, if we cannot help the patient, I think morally we should never harm them. That is the basic essence of medical practice.
Because the demise which is happening from black fungus is not COVID. It's basically mismanagement.
Absolutely, I agree. It's a combination of the two, mismanagement, but there are patients who certainly need steroid as a life-saving measure. If you give steroid, it has its attendant side effects. Diabetes, hypertension, cataract, osteoporosis, fungal infection, higher incidence of infection in any part in the body. But then this is a life-saving drug. If you look at the pharmacology of COVID-19 infection, only drug which has improved mortality is steroids. But then they have to be used judiciously. I fully agree. I'm happy that you come up with this suggestion.
Sonia ji wanted to say something.
Yes, Dr. Rana, just a follow-up question of what Mr. Pawar had raised. Some of our members have suffered COVID, they've been to the hospitals and they've had their share of steroids. So how many days does it take for fungal infection to actually surface, for them to know that, yes, this is something they are being exposed to?
Yes. See, once you have a patient who is diabetic, who has immune suppressed state, who has a prolonged use of antibiotics and require oxygen because of the tubing and contaminated water or hospitalization, within 2 weeks, you are likely to get infected if you have to get infected. If you are beyond that, it is very unlikely that this steroid would have resulted in that infection.
Thank you very much.
Doctor, one question that I've just got from a member, Mr. Arun Adlakha, is black fungus treatable once it is contracted, or there's a high fatality rate? Or if the treatment starts early, probably it can be controlled. So what is the time gap in which it is detected and the treatment is given? So that people can watch.
Absolutely. There are two components. There are two components to the treatment of mucormycosis. One is the antifungal agent called amphotericin B, and second is the debridement or removal of the infected area, because it just keeps creeping into the surrounding tissue. It starts from the nasal cavities, and then it goes into the orbital tissues, ascends on the floor of the brain and enters the brain. Once it has entered the brain, it has a high mortality. Once it enters into because all this ENT area, the nasal bones, the maxillary sinuses, orbital tissues, and the base of the brain, they are interconnected. So if you can diagnose it early, at the earliest sign, say of nasal congestion or headache, persistent headache which is not responding, any visual disturbances or swelling on the face, please talk to your doctor immediately and have antifungal drug. But if it goes beyond the area where it can be managed medically, which happens in about 30 to 40% of the patient, then you need to do the surgical debridement of the tissue. The more the surgical debridement, more will be the morbidity and more the complication. And especially if it hangs up into the brain, then the fatality is going to be pretty high. So if at the earliest sign, get an antifungal treatment and you can save yourself from all the misery associated with it.
Thank you, Rahul.
Rahul wants to ask.
Sir, just to take what Arijit asked, sir, we have seen in our lawyers members, sir, people have recovered, come back home after 5 days suddenly. Is it always a case of a heart problem, or is it again a case of a recurrence of COVID that suddenly they are collapsing, they have recovered, come back home, and we are losing them? I mean, is it always a heart problem, or can be a recurrence case of a COVID, sir? And my second question is, sir, you said we have no vaccination right now for under 18, and the third wave might be in October, November, sir. And if at all it will be Pfizer, that will be below 12. So my question is for children below 10, do we need to take any special precautions? Since there's not going to be any vaccine for them now, it's not there for now. It's that time also, sir. Basically for kids, sir. Since there's not going to be any vaccine, sir.
Yeah, there are two parts to your question. Answering your first question first, as to what happens to the people who suddenly succumb to the illness once they have recovered.
Yes, sir.
So once they have recovered, that means they would have been adequately seen, screened, treated, and discharged. Thereby meaning the active viral replication has gone away. So you're only living with the sequelae or the aftermath of the infection. That aftermath of the infection may be in the lung, and mostly it is in the lung. To die of the infection outside the lung because of the COVID is very rare. And since it incites an inflammatory response, you have a tendency to thrombose your vessels in the brain as well as in the heart. So you have a more propensity to develop heart attack and brain stroke after COVID. But it is not because of the infection, it is because of the inflammation. The virus has gone away. It's like tsunami has come and gone away, but the devastation it has produced, we are still grappling with that. That is the first thing. Second question of your pediatric population.
Yes.
In fact, there has been good data to show that if you split the population of pediatric, which is to the tune of about 40 crore in India below the age of 18 years, so that you can subdivide into four components. You have the infants up to the age of 1 year, which are totally dependent on mothers. That means then between 2 to 12 years, who will be confined at home, and then between 10 and 18 years. The most difficult children are those between 10 and 18 years. You cannot stop them. They'll go out. They do all activities. They'll not follow your orders. Between 8 and 10 years, between 2 and 10 years, they'll still be obedient. And hence, for the time being, since the most vulnerable population is 12 to 18 years, Pfizer has already applied and been allotted by CDC for emergency emergency use authorization of this vaccine in US. In Canada, they are also using it now from 3 to 12 years. And hopefully, as more vaccine is available and we have the results of their safety in the pediatric age group, we may follow the suit because we are ramping up our own production in India as well. But it will take quite a bit of time.
So one question from one of our members. that he says that you can take ivermectin 12 mg once in 15 days. And he says then you need not take the vaccine, wait for Pfizer. Can ivermectin be taken like this just to keep yourself protected?
You see, when the ivermectin came into the market about a year ago in the first wave of COVID-19 infection, the first study had shown that in the Petri dish, if you put in COVID-19 virus and ivermectin, there is a 5,000 reduction in its count. But that was in vitro in a Petri dish outside the body. You must understand, in vitro and in vivo results may not be, matching. But then subsequent analysis and subsequent utility of the ivermectin was not good, and hence WHO never recommended the use of this drug. But since it is a desperate situation, as Mr. Vikas Pahwa said, anybody and everybody, most of the doctors now have pre-formed prescription. You have doxycycline, azithromycin, vitamin C, vitamin D, ivermectin. Since it is a drug which does not have side effects, and there is some data in vitro to show that it suppresses viruses, in the initial phase, there is no harm in giving it, even though there is no scientific basis. But then to use it prophylactically to delay the vaccine, I think this is obnoxious. It doesn't stand to any logic.
Sir, Doctor, one more question. Yes, you go ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as you said, that the virus is looking for vulnerable virgin bodies, sir. Now, and at the same time, the virus is also mutating very fast, especially in India, sir. Now you have the Bengal virus in every mutation. So in case someone has already had COVID, that may be a mild one, but now because it has mutated, what do you think are the chances of that person who has already recovered from the previous virus, COVID virus? What will happen to him? Is he vulnerable to it or not, sir?
Yeah. You see, if you have had the viral infection in the past in the form of a natural infection, then your chance of having an infection from the mutant is very low. And even then, we are not lowering our guard. We have been repeatedly saying that no one is safe till everyone is safe. Till the virus goes away from the world, you have to use WMD. Please understand very clearly. But if you have had normal infection and natural immunity, your chance of getting a severe infection because of the mutant is very low. But do not lower your guard.
Yes, Doctor, I just wanted to ask that if somebody is wearing bigs on the hairs, do they need to remove in between the vaccination, or if they suffer with some problem, or it's okay, they can keep wearing the bigs?
But wigs have nothing to do with the vaccination.
Yes, that's what we thought. But somebody asked this question, that if they are wearing wigs and all, can they need to remove it, or they can keep wearing it?
You see, it is akin to wearing a coat or a tie or a hat. It has nothing to do with vaccination.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
So after recovery, normally you should go out after how many days? You should keep resting at least for 4 weeks or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So is there some protocol for that?
I think this is a very important question, sir. It depends on how severe infection did you have in the first instance. If you had a mild infection, then most of us as doctors, they can be back to work within 7 to 10 days. If you do not have to go on urgent work, you should have quarantine for 2 weeks. But if you have a moderate to severe infection requiring hospitalization, then 4 weeks. If you had been on ventilator, then at least 6 to 8 weeks of home quarantine is essential. So depending upon your immune status, your need to go back to the work, how urgent is it, and your severity of your first attack, that determines how long you have to quarantine.
Nice.
Doctor, one connected question, what sir has asked. One is when you should join your office. Second is when should you start exercising so that you can build up the stamina and better your body? Because what we have been told is I have done about 4 months now after a mild infection I got in January beginning. But we are still scared to go to the gym. We are still scared to go for cycling. We are still scared to go for running, for instance. So, so is there any time gap? Or your body should react? You should act accordingly.
For intensive exercise. What he's meaning is intensive exercise.
Yeah, I think this is relevant. The reason for disallowing all outdoor activities, the fact that it is airborne infection, the fact that if you look at this, let's say genuine data in India, there are only 2.2 crore documented infection. That means 133 crore of Indians are still not infected. That means we have a huge population. Let's go, even though let's say the data is good, but still there is a huge vulnerable population which is not infected. All of us know at the heart of our heart that we have at least 50 times more infection than what have been reported. We'll have far more death than what has been reported. But
no,
the reason
what he's
for
saying
disallowing,
is what he's saying is, supposing if you want to exercise in a sterile atmosphere, like for instance, I'm in the hills. If I want
then
to
do at
exercise
home.
here,
I'll request. Yeah, I'll do it at home.
Yes.
And then as
so
soon
at
as your
home,
body
but
allows
after how
you,
much time? His
as soon
question
as
is
your
after how
body
much
allows,
time?
as I said, as soon as you are off the quarantine period, within week of mild infection, you can be back to work.
So that
Most of
answers
us,
it.
most of our doctors, most of us as doctors, including me, when we had an infection, you are back to work within 1 week. And as soon as you feel physically, strong enough, you can do exercise. But I'll advise that it should be at home rather than
So in
going
a
to
sterile,
confined
basically
spaces.
sterile atmosphere.
No, what I'm
Maintaining
asking,
sterility outside home, it's not easy. So better stay at home and you have your own exercise at home.
Doctor, what I'm asking is with regard to the heartbeat primarily. Our normal heartbeat is around 70, 75, 80. The moment you start working out, it touches 150, 180. Is that harmful? Because your heart in any case is vulnerable and it is just recovered or it was affected by the infection. If it goes around 180, 190, what is the impact? Because that is something which is, creating a scare in the mind of the people. So they're not going out for workouts. Even at home, they are not doing it.
That is what I said. Sir, if your body allows you, after a quarantine period, depending upon how severe the infection has been, mild infection, you can be totally back to your normal activity after 2 weeks. But if you have moderate to severe infection, obviously you will not have the strength to go in for that type of, high grade exercise. So it has to be gradually built up. You cannot come back to your normal pre-COVID level immediately. It has to be tailored individually.
Thank you.
I think, Vikas, your answer is that depending on the severity, you will have to decide.
Yes,
so whatever is your gestation period, after that you can start. Yes,
Doctor, I have one question, doctor. I'm speaking for myself. I had severe corona, doctor, and I tested negative on May 1st. I still have exhaustion, doctor. I still have fatigue. I have breathlessness when I speak, and I have memory fogging, doctor. And then I had blurred vision also. So I went to the ophthalmologist, and then they said the muscles, the body muscles, the eye muscles have become very weak. But there's no vision. The vision has not, the power has not increased. So they've asked me to, completely give eye rest to the eyes. But when will this breathlessness and all go, doctor? I fatigue. After speaking for 5-10 minutes, I become breathless. So
that is precisely what I was trying to say, that, depending upon how severe was your index case of infection in the body and your underlying premorbidities like your body weight, your diabetes, your hypertension, your physical activities, your baseline body structure, and your immune response, your outcome will be different. But you should first of all I must congratulate you that you have come out of the severe infection. You should be thankful to the God and people.
Yes, doctor, it's a second.
Now it is a question of time. Yeah, it is a second phase of life. Now you gradually and slowly don't feel bad. Look at the positive aspect of it, that you have come out of it. If you have a positive thought process, gradually shift over to your normal activity rather than, thinking and again that I am fatigued, my muscles are weak. Take rest, take good diet, and try to have a positive attitude. It will be a question of time. Nobody can tell you how long will you take to recover, but certainly you are recovering.
But I'm not a diabetic, doctor. Of now, my BP is a little high, but even now because of medication, it's controlled. And I was on oxygen for 5 days, and I battled it from 7th April till maybe 30th. I was on bed, complete bed. I had no strength to even get up, talk, and I was very serious, and I was not hospitalized. But it was in the home. I was being monitored.
Pavni, you require a positive attitude and all our.
Sir, I'm very positive, sir. I'm very positive. Nobody can be more positive than me, sir.
So we salute your bravery.
I think 1 or 2 questions and then let's get.
Just one more question I want to ask, Doc, that if you have pets in your house like dogs and cats, they go for walks, and we are not going out, we're sending through a walker. Infection into the house.
Yeah, earlier in the first pandemic, it was believed that you cannot transmit the infection to the pets and vice versa. But there have been some reports of 8 lions in Hyderabad which are tested positive with COVID-19. Normally, between human to animal transmission is very uncommon. But for the purpose of safety, both if your pets have the fever, it's better to isolate him, or if you have the fever, isolate the pet. That is the dictum which we follow till both of you recover.
To be extra cautious.
Yeah, to be
I think let's do the last question.
Sir, one more question. Sir, I received a call from somebody, sir. Sir, the gentleman has not taken any vaccination till now. Considering the efficacy of the various vaccines, which we see in the papers, which is the best vaccine to take? That's the question. Which one should take? Covishield, the Sputnik?
I think Dr. Saab has already answered that Pfizer will be the best, if he says.
Pfizer is not available at this point in time, but whatever.
He has to wait. He has to wait.
India, any vaccine you take is best so far as it is there, but there is no vaccine. Anything you have at hand, please grab it with both hands.
Since we are ending, I just want to ask one question to Dr. Saab on the lighter side. Since my friend asked about animals, we learned that some tigers also got COVID. Somebody was asking me to find out how the RT-PCR was done on the tigers and who had gone and tested them. So he should be given the medal that he has gone and tested the tigers.
It's a good to end on a laugh. Yes, of course.
So,
It's a good.
sir, I think I'm sure nobody will understand better than you that human beings are far superior race than tigers. We know how to tame them.
Yes.
There are caretakers, but then this has not been followed. I think it's very good. Only yesterday I was on a TV channel discussing the same issue. There has been only one test. Subsequently, it has not been confirmed whether it is the same strain or a different strain. Because again, as you said, they didn't have the guts to go back to the tiger after irritating its nose for the first time.
Yes. Last question, Bharti. Last question.
Sir?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Sir, you have said we are all very seasoned person. We advocates are thinking that we are very knowledgeable. We are very intelligent. But you have busted our myth saying that we don't know about our body. Very informative, sir. Thank you very much. And you also said that this virus is very smart virus. It is having a stealing tendency. Without invitation, not as a guest, it is entering our body. Now just tell me, sir, how do we mentally prepare ourselves and how many waves are there still to affect us, sir?
I wish I was an astrologer and I could have answered you better. But the fact is, only thing what you need to now is a vaccine, isolation, and the tendency to stay at home with WMD. That is by wearing the mask, maintaining the social distance, and washing your hands. This is the only guru mantra. And regarding your question that you people are not very knowledgeable, let me tell you, we as doctors know so little about the body which has been made by the nature. I wish we would have known even 1% of what happens in the body. So whatever we talk of is very minuscule by what has been created by the nature and God. And it is only when we disrupt the nature. Have you ever thought, why are we having coronavirus? Look at what happened in Wuhan. You are killing animals, you are culling bats, you are mixing up deers and rats and civets, and you're eating them and in one go, and they are taking their revenge. So nature wants that everybody should live. Chinese people want that they should only live and eat away the bats and the rats and the cats and whatnot, and it is coming back with vengeance. So nature is far more superior than us as human beings. Everybody has to stay. If you think you can cull the animals and live, you are under a wrong impression.
Nature is taking revenge, I think.
Nature is taking the revenge.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. I will close this session now. It was really very, very heartening to hear all this from you and all our questions, which are very, very pertinent questions. And I'm sure a lot of our members would be reassured that, things are in the right direction and they will know how to handle the various eventualities that come with this COVID infection, if at all it comes to them. And we once again thank you very much for taking out just time and talking to our members. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. If there are any queries, any question, anytime, I'll be more than happy to answer anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
I
you
will
so
send
much.
you,
Thank
if
you,
there is
Dr.
anything,
sir.
I'll send you by WhatsApp or message. If there is anything
Okay.
still remaining, which I feel is not remaining unanswered, I'll do that. Thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.